In the heart of the first century, a figure emerged in the ancient land of Israel, a rabbi whose words and actions reverberated like the echo of thunder across the hills of Galilee. His name was Jesus of Nazareth, and he carried with him a proclamation that was as audacious as it was transformative. Jesus announced that he had come to fulfill the Torah and the prophets, the sacred texts that had shaped his people's identity for centuries. Yet, unlike the leaders of his time who courted the wealthy and powerful, Jesus' message was brought to the fringes, to the forgotten and the broken. Among the powerless, the sick, and the poor, Jesus declared a vision, the arrival of the kingdom of the skies. Imagine the scene: fishermen with calloused hands, farmers dusty from the fields, mothers holding their hungry children. These were the ones Jesus addressed. To those worn down by the oppressive forces of the world, he offered hope, a world set right. But what exactly was this kingdom he spoke of? In the rich symbolism of Scripture, the skies, or heaven, represented God's realm, a place where righteousness and justice prevailed, untainted by human corruption. Heaven coming to earth was not an escapist fantasy. Rather, it was a vision of God's love and peace overthrowing the powers of death and chaos in our very midst. This wasn't an abstract ideal. From the beginning of the biblical story, humanity had glimpsed this union of heaven and earth in the Garden of Eden, a paradise where man walked with God, surrounded by divine love and perfect harmony. Eden was a place where God and humanity coexisted, building a world together. But there, even in the beauty of that first home, a choice existed. The garden had a gate, and beyond it lay a path that led away from God's life-giving presence. This was the road of disobedience, the road that led to pain, violence, and ultimately, death. You might wonder, why would anyone ever choose that path? How could they leave a perfect existence with God? It began with a deception. A cunning creature, the serpent, whispered into the hearts of the first humans, suggesting that God couldn't be trusted. The serpent painted a picture of an easier, more self-sufficient life, promising independence from God's ways. But that promise was a lie, and humanity fell, exchanging paradise for toil and separation. Yet, God did not abandon his creation. Driven by his boundless love, he initiated a grand plan of redemption. He chose one family, the descendants of Abraham, to be his covenant people, Israel. Through them, God provided the Torah, a divine guide to help humanity find its way back to life with him. The laws, stories, and rituals of the Torah were meant to shape Israel into a nation that lived so beautifully that other nations would be drawn to God. Israel was to be a light, demonstrating the way back to God's presence, a beacon of hope for a world lost in darkness. Nevertheless, Israel struggled. Again and again, they turned from God's path. The false prophets and corrupt leaders of their time led them astray. The prophet Ezekiel vividly described these leaders as wolves dressed in sheep's clothing, deceivers who lured people toward destruction. The very people who were supposed to guide Israel back to God instead plunged them deeper into confusion and sin. Then, in an act of unimaginable grace, Jesus appeared. His message was as much a call to return to God as it was an invitation to a new way of living. Jesus proclaimed that God's kingdom had come near, not in a distant future, but now. With words full of authority and compassion, he called a new community into existence, a people willing to follow the narrow path he laid before them. Enter through the narrow gate, Jesus warned. For wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to ruin, and many walk through it. But narrow is the gate and constricted is the path that leads to life, and few find it. He did not sugarcoat the journey. The way he offered was difficult and full of trials. At times, it would feel suffocating and uncertain. But in truth, it was the way to authentic freedom, a freedom that only God could give. Jesus' warnings were clear. Along the narrow path, there would be those who sought to lead his followers astray. "Watch out for false prophets," he said, "who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves." The deception would not always be obvious. These false guides would appear genuine, even virtuous, yet their true nature would be revealed in the fruits they produced. "By their fruits you will know them," Jesus taught. The fruits were the outcomes of a person's choices, the ripple effects of their actions on the world around them. Jesus emphasized that simply imitating religious actions would not suffice. "Many will say to me on that day, 'Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, drive out demons in your name, and perform many miracles?' And I will tell them plainly, 'I never knew you.'" These were startling words. Jesus was pointing to something deeper than outward behavior. He was talking about the condition of the heart. Good deeds performed for the wrong reasons, or with ulterior motives, were empty in God's sight. The choice Jesus offered was not merely about doing good, but about knowing Him intimately and allowing Him to transform our lives. This transformation was not superficial. It demanded a complete reordering of values. Jesus drove this point home with a vivid metaphor: building a house. "Where will you build your house?" he asked. "On rock or on sand?" Those who heard his teachings and put them into practice would be like wise builders constructing their homes on a solid rock foundation. When storms came, and they inevitably would, their homes would stand firm. In contrast, those who ignored his words built on sand, and when the floods rose, their houses collapsed with a great crash. Jesus' image of the house on the rock carried profound meaning for his listeners. In the Hebrew Scriptures, the idea of building on the rock was deeply connected to God's temple in Jerusalem, a sacred space where heaven and earth met. The temple was more than just a physical structure. It was a symbol of God's presence dwelling among his people. By choosing to build on the rock, Jesus' followers were invited to become temples of God's Spirit, places where his heavenly presence could dwell and transform the world. His teachings culminated in a vision of a new humanity. "You are the light of the world," Jesus declared. "A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." This new community would be a living testimony to God's love and justice, a stark contrast to the world's brokenness. Jesus painted a picture of a society where peace replaced violence, generosity conquered greed, and love overcame hate. Through his life, he modeled this vision, demonstrating selfless service, compassion for the marginalized, and unwavering commitment to truth. But Jesus did more than preach. He lived out this kingdom vision. He touched the untouchables, healed the wounded, and welcomed sinners with open arms. His love was so radical that it challenged the very structures of power in his society. His mission ultimately led him to the cross, where he bore humanity's sin and made a way for us to be reconciled with God. By rising from the dead, he shattered the finality of death, offering the hope of new life to all who would follow him. Friends, as we reflect on Jesus' invitation, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and comment "God bless you" below. Your engagement helps us share this powerful message with more people, and together, we can be a light that shines across the digital world. The story of Jesus and the choice he offers is not just ancient history. It is a living call, a decision that every generation must face. Will we take the easy path, lured by temporary pleasures and false promises, or will we choose the narrow way that leads to life? The world is full of voices clamoring for our attention, but Jesus invites us into a relationship that transforms us from the inside out. Ultimately, the choice comes down to where we place our trust. Will we build our lives on the shifting sands of worldly values, or will we anchor ourselves in the eternal rock of God's truth? Jesus stands at the gate, offering not only guidance but his very presence. The decision we make shapes not only our present reality but our eternal destiny. Asterisk before you leave. be sure to explore the first link in our description. Our store is filled with faith-inspired items, from apparel to beautiful jewelry, designed to keep your connection to God strong. These pieces aren't just accessories, they're reminders of His enduring love and promises. Your support allows us to continue bringing stories of hope and truth to more people. Jesus' invitation remains open. It's a call to build lives that reflect God's kingdom, to become a people who embody His grace and truth in a world that desperately needs it. The choice is yours. How will you respond?